What is up, my friends? Welcome to the Storm Code. I'm your host, Stormie Calder, and I'm going to get you a good freaking time here. We're going to be talking about spirituality, personal development, maybe a splash of physics, if I can figure that out. Remember to get your headphones. This is an explicit rated podcast. I do swear here and there. So if you got little ones in the room, just get those buggy little headphones in and let's get going, man. So, welcome to the freaking podcast, my friends. This is the first official episode. I could not be more excited. What are we going to talk about here? Let's talk about meditation, my friends. I don't know that I ever really talk about meditation, but I do meditate a lot. I started meditating when I was 19, when I went to my first Ashtanga yoga class, which I went, it was very, I went begrudgingly. A good friend of mine was trying to convince me to do yoga, and when I was growing up, the most meditation practice I had was watching The Lion King. When Rafiki sits down to meditate, I would sit down to meditate and go, om, 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 om. It was an ongoing joke for me. So when I was 19, one of my buddies convinced me to go to a yoga class. And it is hilarious because of my career now, because truly, I thought that meditation was for sissies. I was like, I don't need that. That's not for me. That's not what people like me do. I can hold it in. I can hold it together. I don't even know what meditation is. Yoga? Like, I am so not here for that. Massage? Absolutely not. Any level of wellness territory. I was like, you know what? One of the phrases I used to say when I was a teenager was, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Load up the extracurricular activities. Give me more things to learn. I am a super learner. I learned very quickly. It is a incredible superpower that I have. So anyway, all the long things to say. Meditation was not my jam, nor was yoga. And this was not the first time I had been invited to a yoga class, but it was the first time that I accepted the offer. And I will tell you that young Stormie, she was convinced because her friend told her that they did headstands and that might be fun. And then my friend proceeded to show me how to do a headstand on the grass on the side of the road in Burlington, Vermont. That's where this conversation started. This is where my journey started. And all right, so meditation. So I started meditating after I started doing Ashtanga yoga. I signed up for my yoga teacher training shortly after. I really, really enjoyed Vinyasa yoga. I really enjoyed Ashtanga yoga. And I was studying with one of the most OG, incredible women on the planet. And I felt really lucky to be studying with someone that I truly could trust, that I really felt like, A, they knew what they were doing, but it really was an OG. This was not like a basic B yoga curriculum with the tight pants to show off the yoga booty. That's not what was going on here. This was like the real deal. We are juice fasting for 2 weeks straight. We don't throw anything out. We want to have full usage of everything that we use with minimalism. So all of the pulp from the juice we're going to make cakes out of. And it was such a rad little party up there in Burlington, Vermont. Let me tell you, I hippied it the F up because truly that's who I am. You know, it's funny when I reflect back on meditating and what meditating meant for me when I first started spiritual development work is it was really, really hard. Like I remember having trouble focusing for just a few minutes at a time, and my mind would be racing all over the place. And it's funny to even slow myself down now and even contemplate that because this has been well over a decade. Like, I don't know, many, many, many years. So I've been meditating for a very long time. I remember when I was younger too, right around when I started doing yoga, I got really, really passionate about meditation and about what it did for me. So I wasn't diagnosed with depression when I was younger, but I did have depression. And I think I wasn't diagnosed because my parents were just like, "That's overrated." Like, we just deal with things like that. The part of the baby boomer generation that was just like, "You're depressed, like, so is everyone else in the world. Get over it." Um, which I don't mean to be insensitive, but it is funny, at least to me now. And so I did have depression, and I don't know that it was, like, at a serious level, but I will say that when people asked me why I meditated and why I was so dedicated to it when I was younger, like, maybe around 20 years old, I used to say, "Well, I don't know if it's for you, but I know that it made me not depressed. I know that it made me connect to myself. It made me slow down my thoughts. Instead of being really negative and bored, I started being okay with space and with thinking less and with breathing and with just observing." And it is funny because I do feel like meditation really trains you to sit in a real observer role over time, to the point where I don't feel like I'm that much of a reactive sort of human, to the point where maybe you guys will laugh at me. You are welcome to. My spirit guides will will stream into me when I'm in the middle of a conflict or something with like another human, because I actually don't really get angry. And my spirit guides will come in and get angry for me and, like, kind of try to punch etherically. Like, they'll be like, "Stormy, this is a good time for you to say this." And I'll be like, "What?" But I'm just an observer, and, I mean, we're all gonna go back to source anyway, right? Like, we're all one, so, I mean, I don't need to be angry at this person, and I swear to God, you guys, my spirit guides, like, throw a knip with me. They are like, "You have moved to the point of detachment, Stormy. We need you back on this planet. Anger is not a bad thing. You must embrace your internal flame." And use that flamethrower and throw it at humans who are trying to mess with you. And it's taken me a long time, to be honest, to become more reactive, because the amount of observation that I've trained myself into between meditation, between all of my different yoga trainings, and all of my channeling and my coaching, it's just so much more natural now at this point for me to sit into an observation role. But there is a lot of value, so, so, so much value in being reactive. I'm gonna say the opposite to what you guys hear probably from most practitioners, because I'm very far into my personal development journey. I didn't just wake up into spiritual development 2 years ago. And that's no judgment to anyone that is just waking up now. It's really beautiful, and we're all very excited to have you on this journey. But I did start my awakening at 19. And I am in my late 30s. So it has been almost 20 years, which is a nice, good, long time for me to deep dive and explore all of the little nooks and crannies of what it is to be spiritual, what it is to be an evolved human, or, I would say an evolving human, because we're constantly evolving. I don't know that we are ever evolved, right? Throughout those 2-ish decades, I don't know what we're at, 17 years or something, I did find that the more and more and more I would meditate, and the more and more and more personal development work I would do, the more detachment that I would practice, the less attached I would become to anything. And anyone that has spent quite a bit of time in a spiritual journey, when we really saturate there, you'll find like those of us that are the most deep into our practices do have a severe level of detachment. And it's not like, I don't know if it's healthy or not. I was gonna say it's not unhealthy, but I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? What I will say is that when you're busy colliding with the energetic dynamics of the metaphysics of what creates the universe, you continue to know that everything will blend back into the void and will become nothingness. So if you know that nothing truly matters, then what truly matters? I don't know what this is called. I think Carolyn Myss calls it spiritual madness. I would call it like a spiritual psychosis almost, where it's like you're so blended with the universe, you're so awake and so aware that you forget what it is to have an individualist identity. And what I will say is that my spirit guides, at least for me, have trained me as wonderful coaches and interim parents occasionally to actually be reactive. And that's been something that's been very difficult for me over the past few years, especially because I would categorize myself as a previous people pleaser in recovery, meaning I like the word reactive in this way that I'm using it instead of responsive, because I feel like for me, when I'm in a conflict and I have to tell someone off, or I have to set a very hard boundary, or it is a reaction. It's a response, but it's really taking the first reaction without thinking. And that's why I say it's reactive. And I'm not saying that this is the best way to go for everyone, but I am saying that this is how my spirit guides and my spirit team has led me into being healthier with my boundaries, healthier with identifying as being a human, as insane as that statement sounds from me. When you are more identified to spirit, to your otherworldly nature, it can be hard to embrace what it is to be human. And what you guys will find with me, those of you that have been following me for a while now, those of you that are new, you'll start to find this is my angle of spirituality, is that it's been the hardest for me. It's been the most challenging for me to accept my humanity, to not float off into some cloud and mold my mind with spirit and surrender to the point where there's no thinking left that is Stormie's thinking, but it's spiritual thinking. And I have so much experience with blending myself into the universe, almost the way a people pleaser would blend themselves or chameleonize themselves into the people around them. I feel like I probably had a similar way of doing my spiritual work. You kind of lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, the decisions that spirit makes on your behalf are not decisions you would ever make for yourself. And they do actually put you in compromised positions and compromised situations. Now, I will always say, when you are with spirit and you are protected, of course, you're always safe. But a phrase I heard earlier today from my spirit guides, from God, was, "Beggars can't be choosers, sweetheart." And I went, yes, I get it. You know, if you're not going to make your own decisions and you're going to default those decisions to spirit, or default to, I'll let the universe know, the universe will tell me when it's time to make this move, or when it's time to start this business, or when it's time to actually ask that person out on a date, or when it's time to, you know, whatever the F it's going to be for you. When we default all those decisions up to the universe, we no longer are in control of our reality, meaning we have given up our own agency to have a say in what actually gets to happen based in our action and our voices. I think giving things up and surrendering to spirit is wonderful, but to the point my guide said earlier, beggars can't be choosers. If you're not going to take personal responsibility for your own actions and your thoughts and how you move through this world and your decisions, and you're going to continually give them up to spirit, which many of us spiritualists do, then dear God, when spirit gives you the answer and you don't like it, what the hell are you going to do about it? Like, you know, it's like, well, you didn't want to take responsibility. You gave it up to spirit. You asked spirit to be your parent. The parent then gave you direction. Now you're upset with the results of the direction. Now, if you guys want to dive deeper into that, you can do a little research on Mother Teresa. For those of you that don't know, she had a very, very difficult relationship with God because God asked her to do things she didn't want to do. She had to give everything up. She just like the work that she did, if you read a little bit about her, you'll find out she actually really struggled with her relationship with God. And she is a beautiful entity type. Mother Teresa was one of my favorite guides to connect to through the years. I haven't been channeling her recently, but she is one of my favorites. She has a terrific sense of humor. And you guys might be shocked to also know that her sense of humor when she comes through to me as a medium is also highly sexual, which is also even more hilarious. That's what happens when you're a nun. It gets pent up. Anyway, so for those of you that are new to my work and my channel, A, I like to get a little racy in case you didn't notice. B, I will say the things that other PC people won't say. I have a pioneering spirit and I like to get a little edge in on things. I do have a, what would I call it? I have like an edgy or spicy character underneath all of my sweetness. I like to exercise all parts of myself. I do have a background in comedy and a little bit of comedy at least. I'm not interested in keeping things PC. I think it's a lot funnier when we can actually say the truth and say it in ways that are digestible and entertaining. And I don't see a reason to shy away from that. And the reason why I'm bringing this up here is because anyone who is following a spiritualist or a spiritual channel or a spiritual podcast is going to think that they shouldn't swear. They probably shouldn't talk that much about sex, and they probably shouldn't talk about drugs or I don't know, or anything else. And I will talk about everything. My spirit guides told me the other day, they were like, Stormie, you should be so proud of yourself because there's quite a blue ocean strategy here for you. Because I can talk about death, sex, drugs, mental illness. I will talk about dark soul contracts. I will talk about everything that your mother won't tell you about spirituality. So, welcome, baby. That's what you can expect here. So now that we've gotten that part out of the way, I'm also really digging this podcast thing because I can try on different voices and you guys aren't watching me in camera, so I don't have to worry about the weird contortions that I am making with my microfacial expressions right now. How freaking wonderful is that? Something else you can really truly expect from me and my angle on spirituality, on spiritual and personal development. Some of my biggest struggles and challenges have come from identifying with my individualistic personality as a human and me embracing my power, which most spiritual, I like to say spiritual leaders. I don't know what else I would call them. When I say spiritual leaders, it's quite a category. We'll be poking fun of some of that stuff coming up here on some new episodes. I think I would enjoy that. So anyway, spiritual leaders, generally speaking, there's... I hate to say it this way, but it kind of is they're kind of washed out personalities and they're expected to be perfect. So they're expected to be inhuman. They're expected to have all the right answers at all the right time, to never mess up and to never have a human response or human reaction or human emotion. So what happens, and I have placed myself in this category in the past, but what happens is we all tend to wash ourselves out. It is beautiful, but it shouldn't be to a complete fault. We choose to align with the universal mind, the chitta, as we call it in yoga. The gamma wave state frequency. It is the mind of the all one, the mind of source. Within source, there are many sources. There are many different aspects of God consciousness that can be channeled, many different powers of creation, and it's all really beautiful. But sometimes, very frequently, with this work and practice, it is at the expense of the human consciousness. It is often at the expense of the very things that make a human human. I will call these shadow attributes. But when I say shadow, I mean dark. I don't mean evil. Shadow is just the unconscious. It's the unconscious raw power that each of us has. And frequently, spiritual people or spiritualists or people looking to sell spirituality in one way or another tend to not want to show their shadow because it's the opposite of the brand of what it is to be a spiritual person. Now, I am here for total and complete wholeness. I don't believe in separating out the self into the perfectionist light traits and then separating out the shadow traits and shoving them behind a closet door somewhere, hoping the skeletons never fall out. Everyone has skeletons, even the most spiritual of those you follow, I promise. They just shove their skeletons a little bit deeper in the closet and they just hope you never see them. Don't open the closet. When you come over for dinner, you can see a little toe peeking out. Sorry, my humor can be dark. It's not that dark, but it's kind of dark. And apparently more of this is coming out of me, podcast style. I don't know that I would ever do this on video. So you're going to have an entirely different experience from me over here. I believe in integrating light and shadow. I believe in embracing who you are as a human as well as your divinity, which in other terms we could say is like your soul traits, what I call the soul voltage, the soul electricity, your soul creative expression, combined with your human expression. And to be human is to want and express power dynamics, want for money, understanding lusty things. My guides always coach me on lust versus trust. That is something I have had to learn the hard way many times, so maybe we will go into that at some point because I think it's a very, very valuable teaching moment. Lust versus trust. You want to go into trust. Not lust. It's the difference between wanting and not being able to have and having from the place of trust. Trust is love. Lust is the wanting. It's the coveting. It's like what, I don't know. I don't love the word sin, but it's like the sin-based side of it as opposed to the godly. But anyway, so I'm here to teach on and be an example of a very spiritually adept human, a consciousness expert, if you will, that embraces both light and shadow. And I will not steer away from either of them. And I'm very, very intimate with my shadow, and I'm very, very intimate with my light. And I am happy to pull the veil back and show what that can look like based in my near 2 decades of very, very deep experience in my own personal development work and spiritual development work. And I say them in 2 different categories as well, because personal development tends to be more action-based. It is more, I've been an entrepreneur since I was actually a child, and more specifically since I was probably like 18 or 19. And in entrepreneurship, the culture of entrepreneurship in the United States really surrounds personal development, because you have to be able to break the mold, get out of your way, enter market, be able to understand who you are, understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and then be able to share things, products, services with the world, going out into what I would call a lion's den, which is the market, and be able to take care of yourself without snapping at people while keeping things professional, like while having a great positive attitude, while working until you die, while, hustle culture, the whole freaking thing, right? Like, oh my God, I've been through it all. I can talk entrepreneurship circles, like in circles. So personal development tends to be a more action-oriented approach that has to do with productivity and values and your daily habits and rituals. I can give you guys a million books on personal development that are amazing. It's much more mentally focused. It's focused on mental clarity and on engineering through strategy how you want to move through this world in your life, designing your business and designing your life intentionally from the stance of engineering. Like, what do you want? And then how do you reverse engineer that? How do you create that? Now, spiritual development is a little bit different, but I would put them both in the same category for me because I cover both categories relentlessly. So spiritual development is about understanding the heady esoteric concepts and parts of yourself, your soul current, your soul data. What does your personal energy look like? How does it feel? How does it manifest? Where does it live in your body? How does it reflect itself into reality? You know, the people that you meet, how are they reflecting you back to you? What is it bringing you into more of yourself? What is your understanding of your own self-awareness? And how do you navigate this world knowing that you are a multidimensional creature with a soul, an oversoul, an avatar, and a rishi self? These are all the hierarchical aspects of the soul. And then all of the parallel and past dimensional realities. These are like past lives. What happens when we die? And all of the things in between. So I like to cover the gambit, you know? I like to do it all. Who doesn't want to do it all? We can blame it on being bored. When I'm bored, I just start exploring. I'm like, "I'm bored. I'm gonna go learn something new." And then I get really good at it. And then people are like, "How are you good at so many things?" I'm like, "I'm in my late 30s. I've been doing this since I was a kid." Like the skills stack. You just keep getting more and more and more skills, and you get better and better and better. So anyway, I guess I'm going to cap this off here by just saying thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you have enjoyed this episode, please stick around for more, subscribe. Feel free to do all the podcast things that I haven't figured out how to catch up with yet, which I think might be leaving reviews, perhaps, or tell somebody about this and maybe send them the podcast episode. But I would love to hear from you guys what you think about this, maybe some topics. If you guys have interesting topics that you want me to cover, or even questions about personal development or spiritual development around shadow work or around light work, I would be happy to entertain them and talk about these things on this podcast. So that's where I'm at. If you're new, thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Stormie Calder. I'm a life coach, a personal development coach, a personal branding coach, a psychic medium, a shaman. I'm very, very well versed in all of these different topics and just honestly very happy to be sitting here as a very whole, very all accepting human who does no harm and takes no shit. And that tends to be my motto. So if that's your jam, keep listening. I look forward to being in your ear pod, joining you on your walks and your runs, being with y'all in new circumstances that are not just behind the computer on YouTube. That is also where you can find me. My YouTube channel is I Am Woke. And you can find me on Instagram as well under Emelina Calder, which is my first name, EmelinaCalder, or Stormie Calder, spelled with an IE. I have both accounts. So that's where you can find me. If you are new to my work, I do have a number of free meditations that I have on my website that I would love to share with you that I really think you'd enjoy. The first of which that's coming to mind is the cash infusion meditation, which helps you align to the frequency and energy of money. So I really think you're going to love that. You can go catch that at iamemelina.com/money-meditation. I hope to see you in one of those free trainings. I think you'll dig them. And I think that's all I've got for you guys. So if you enjoyed this, please let me know in one way or another. Either drop a comment on a YouTube video, drop a review here, or send me an email. Okay. Lots of love, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful, sexy day. So have at it. Alrighty. Peace.